Our wine this week comes from a region in France called Gaillac, which is actually probably one of the very first regions that they ever made wine in France, or certainly one of the first regions that the Romans made wine in France. So it's a very, very historic region. And as long ago as the Middle Ages, the wines were incredibly sought after in England and in other parts of Europe. Because of where Gaillac is, it's in southwest France, and it's very close to a river. It was quite easy to get the wines down that river and to the port of Bordeaux and then out to other European ports. So they were highly sought after and much exported. But of course today, not very many people have heard of Gaillac, which is actually a great shame because they are making some very wonderful wines. We're tasting wine today from a producer called Patrice Lescarré. His domain is Causse Marines, and they make, in our opinion, some of the very nicest Gaillacs on the market. He's one of the producers in Gaillac, and a gentleman called Robert Plagiot is another, and probably the more high profile, who is really serious about using only indigenous grape varieties. What's been happening the last 20 years is that more and more people have been planting Sauvignon Blanc and even Chardonnay in Gaillac, and either blending those grape varieties in or making wines that are almost exclusively from them. Patrice and Robert both believe that there is more than enough Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc in the world, so what you should do is work with what you've got and work with some of the really fantastic local grape varieties. So this wine contains Mosaic, an incredibly versatile variety from Gaillac that is used to make sparkling wine, dry wine, sweet wine. It does all of them brilliantly. Something called Loin de l'Huile, which is incredibly obscure. Not a very high acid grape variety, but some really nice fruity and slightly floral flavours. Something called Ondenc, which is really very, very close to the brink of extinction. There's only about 8 hectares of Ondenc left in Gaillac. And finally, a grape variety called Muscadel, which you see, of course, in Bordeaux as well, and which gives really great floral, orange blossom kind of aromas to wine. All of these are in this amazing wine, so that immediately tells you that this is going to be something that is quite floral and very fruity, but not in an overtly tropical New World way. There's an element of restraint and elegance here as well. Patrice Lescarré took over this domain in 1993. He only had 8 hectares at the time, but that has since grown to 12, and is a completely natural winemaker. He farms biodynamically, and in the winery he tries not to interfere at all and only uses the absolute bare minimum of sulfur dioxide. So these really are properly natural wines in the best sense of the word. On the nose, that's got kind of very pleasant melon and apple aromas, but there is a really quite strong edge of flowers, which is lovely. Oh, that's really good. It's really soft wine, even though there's a nice freshness to it. It's not overly crisp. There's a really lovely, slightly silky textural element, and it feels really lovely and soft and round on the tongue, which works perfectly with this quite delicate melon appley fruit and then this hint of blossom. I think that this is absolutely a perfect spring summer wine. You can have it with food, although I'd almost be happier just drinking a glass of this by itself. But if you are going to have it with food, I wouldn't have it with anything too big or too overwhelming, or with flavours that are too strong. So stick to kind of lighter, fresher, cleaner meals.